You know. Hey guys, welcome to another brand new episode of Sipping Tea with Suzanne. I am so excited. It is going to be the final episode of the year. Else the little sparkles and leather and lace, all right? So I am very, very excited. What a year 2022 has been. So we're gonna, recap a little bit and talk about 2022. But just very excited about tonight's episode. I have with me the phenomenal Triple A. I was so excited when I came up with that on my own. Very. She's an artiste, she's an author, and she is an architectural engineer. All right. So I had to throw that in there. I'm so proud of her. She has her own radio show. I mean, there's so many things that this girl does. I mean, there is one thing about her, though, that I'm going to call her out on. She likes the cold. I really do now. She'll be celebrating like those 8 degrees single digit weather, and I don't. But I am so honored to have with me on Sipping Tea with Suzanne, the fabulous and phenomenal Kimberly Oliver.
Why, thank you so much for that huge introduction. Like, now I have to live up to it.
You better.
All those things. It's like, is that me? But it is. I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm so super excited about all of the things that you've been doing. Been watching you. We've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
We've talked about this in the past, and to actually see it manifest is so exciting to me, to just see the different things that you're doing and all of the programs and the banquets and the balls and the teas and the galas, like things that we talked about years ago that are actually happening.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. And thank you for that. The things I love about you, always give props. And I love that because I like to give another woman her props. And, as you say, you see all those things. I am so inspired by you and just many of the things that you do, because it was, years ago. Remember when you just started out like KJO, when you had the calendar?
I did. I had the calendars. Yeah.
Before everybody discovered Canva, right?
Yeah.
And, you were doing your thing. And at that time, everything seemed strange, right? The internet had just come out and you were on Facebook, and you were an avid Facebook user.
I still am.
I love it. But you know what though? Like your posts, they're so inspirational and they're encouraging, and you share your journey and just like many different things, and talk about growth. I love the growth that's been happening with you, how you've evolved from, the quotes to the book. So those quotes turned into a book. So we're going to talk about that. So how did quotes, because we all make quotes, right? Like everybody is, forever creating quotes. And a lot of times we create quotes and think we're original, and we find out somebody else said it a little differently. But how did your quotes evolve into a book?
Well, it's so funny. So it started in 2012. The Lord blessed me, and I cannot believe I did not even bring my book with me. Here we go. But anyways, I can still talk about it. It started in 2012. The Lord was literally giving me these different quotes, and I just write them down. I put them in the notes on my phone. That's how it started. They would be in the notes on my phone. And he kept saying, he said, get it out there. I want people to hear this. Because I said, nobody's going to care. Nobody wants to hear these quotes. I don't know. And God's like, nope, this is going somewhere. So we're talking about 10 years ago. So here it is 10 years later. The quotes became a book 2 years ago in 2020. And the name of my book, for those of you who don't know already, is 101 God-Given Confirmations. And what happened was, over those years, those 8 years at the time, God was he was cultivating me. And I was evolving, and he, different experiences that I was going through, every single one of the quotes is something that I've personally gone through. Or it's an emotion, or it's something that I was feeling, or, whether I was hurt, whether I was excited, all the quotes pretty much are all something that was maybe a negative, and I took it to the positive realm, and I made it positive, because I just, your slogan, positively Suzanne, because there's so much negativity in the world, we just don't need another negative thing.
Nope.
And so it evolved. I ended up doing a book. And, originally the book was going to be based off of one of my favorite quotes. And it's like my mantra, my signature quote is, I may not be high up on your train, but I'm linked to God. And that was going to be the title of the book. And I was going to do an entire book just about that subject. And the Lord said to me, what about all those other quotes that you have? Why can't it be an affirmation book? And the company that I was working with at the time, they actually said, we don't have any affirmation books under our belt, under our heading. And so we were excited to launch an affirmation book. And it was just an exciting journey. I went through a lot. I was up late at night, I stressed out a little bit, but it's so worth it doing it with God is totally different. You trying to do it on yourself, by yourself, on your own is so hard and so different. But when you put God into the equation and he's all in it and he's all about it, it's totally different. And you can just go with it. Even if you have your low days and you have your pitfalls and things happen, life happens, but you still can continue with him. And I knew he was with me the entire way. So that just propelled me. It pushed me. I'm a big social media person. So this was kind of like my time to say, wow, people clown social media and they put it down. But here I actually had a platform. Facebook was my platform for those 8 years to actually launch these quotes. And people were starting to ask, well, do you have any more? I love this one. And so I did calendars in 2014, and that's how I really took off. And people were saying, I need to see these quotes every day in my office. I need to see these quotes every day at home. And so I was putting them on calendars. I was doing t-shirts. I was doing tumblers. I was doing mugs. I was doing blankets, anything. I did baseball caps, anything that you could put something on, any medium, I was doing it. I was going to try it. I even had clocks.
I know.
I had clocks.
I know.
How that message was going to get out there. But, it taught me so much because I started doing bazaars. I had never done bazaars or anything like that. And what I was finding was that those times I was cultivating and I was able to minister to the customers. That would come up and they would say, well, what does this quote mean? Or how did you come up with this? And it was a ministry, and I was meeting people and I was mingling and I was being my extroverted self. And through those times, there were so many testimonies. I heard testimonies from people. I heard testimonies from the customers. I heard what those quotes meant to them. And, people would tell me, hey, that clock is in my kitchen, or that calendar is with my granddaughter. And we talk about it. And it just, it did my heart so good. And I knew at that moment I was meant to do this and that God had ordained it.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you say that it's a ministry, right? Because a lot of times then we're doing things and we don't realize that it's something that God's placed inside of us to touch people in a different way, because we know that, different people are touched by different things. Some people are audio, some people are visual, some people want to see you live in that lifestyle. And some people, some people want to be beat over the head, and some people just want to be, subtle with it. But I remember when you started that, and, to see where, that came from. And I love the twist on words, Kimformations. I will say that. So I have a podcast called Sit Down with Suzanne. I make it simple. I put my name in it, right? And you had a couple of revelations on the podcast. Each time you're on the podcast.
I did.
So let's see if we're going to have a revelation tonight. We probably will. But, it's like, when I thought about having you on the show, I was so excited because you also have a radio show.
I do.
And I was on it most recently, for the first anniversary show. And I was thinking about, who do I want to end the year with? And I was like, well, I have to end it with my girl, Kim, because there's so much she's doing and just how she's evolved. And I like the fact that you talk about, how social media can be a medium that we can use to bless others. And I honestly believe that, it can change lives there is a lot of negativity
can
out
be.
there. And if you choose to focus on the negative, that's, you know, what you're going to get. But you can use social media for good. I remember I was in a conference in Miami earlier this year, and, you know, we were in the car, we were talking, and I was talking to these folks, and they were telling me of how much, you know, dirty stuff, like inappropriate stuff they get on their Instagram. And I was like, really? They're like, oh yeah, it's like, and they were like, it's just explaining all these like just inappropriate things and image. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even think you could, but apparently it's what you like, what you search for or what you look for. Because I was like, my Instagram is pretty boring. Like, I mean, I see motivational quotes, I see shoes
it's
and
what you
dresses
make it.
and food, but apparently there's this whole secret life to Instagram.
It's all how you channel it.
Exactly.
It's how you channel
exactly
it, what you're putting out,
yes,
and the people that you're attracting.
Exactly.
And you know, it's very telling.
Yeah.
Social media is an extremely telling tool
Mhm.
where, you know, I mean that things that you put out there and you see certain people and you think you know people,
Yeah.
but then you look at their social media and it doesn't always line up, and you say, wow, I thought I really knew that person.
Yeah.
And then they do something and you're like, okay. And
Yeah.
you're not trying to be judgy.
No.
But it's kind of like, well, wait a minute, it doesn't line up. You know,
Yeah.
so I've always been very authentic.
Yeah.
I think that really, really says something about a person's character, is that I should be the same person that you see in Target. I should be the same person that you see in the pulpit at church. I should be the same person at work. And I should be able to be the same person at home or when I'm out with my friends. Or it shouldn't be like, oh, that's the other Kimberly that's out. Or which Kimberly did I see yesterday?
Yeah.
You should be able to be authentic in every area of your life. And I try to stay as true to that. And sometimes that leads to transparency that everybody doesn't want. Everybody is not transparent. Everybody is not comfortable with transparency. But I feel that transparency is key, because you don't know who you're helping, who you're inspiring. And if you hold everything in, people are never going to know things. There's so much that people need to learn, so much that people need to know. And if you just bottle it all up, and, you know, it can be selfish too, because you're like, well, I don't want anybody else to know. It's like, you know, there are so many things out there, so many talents, so many anointings. Don't worry about somebody's trying to bite your stuff and somebody's trying to trying to take it. Go ahead and take my stuff. Go right ahead, because I'm too busy being myself to worry about you may potentially copy my stuff. Or you may, you know, well, my stuff in my book is copywritten, so I don't have to even worry about that. But there's another,
in case you didn't know.
I definitely have to backpedal, because that was another thing way before I had the book. I kept wanting to get all of these quotes. I have over 400 quotes.
Yeah.
I released 101 of them. I still have 300 that I can pull out when I want to pull out. You know, there may be 201 more, you know, God-given confirmations. But what I was going through those years was I was so troubled about, well, how do I go about, you know, copywriting 400 different quotes, and how expensive it is at the time. And I'm not sure about the laws or how things may have changed, but it was running about like $40 to copyright one thing, and multiply that times 300, right? So do the math. And I was like, I don't have that. So what do I do? And so I talked to a couple of people who were into that type of thing, and they gave me some great advice. And they said, go ahead, even before it's officially copywritten, you can still kind of put it there, like lightly put it there, or put some type of watermark, or do something just to let people know, like, this is serious. You're serious, or you're on your way to do that. So, you know, I would tell people, anybody that's out there listening, to listen to God. Number one, what he's telling you to do, obey it. Obedience is key. And then also to just remember where you're headed, where you're trying to go. And, you know, the times that you want to give up, the times that you don't want to do it, the times that you're discouraged, the time that people tell you, this is silly. What in the world are you doing this for? It's not going to go anywhere. All those voices, if you can push them down, just think about the one voice that's telling you, go for it, do it. Because I was very discouraged about, not being able to come up with all this money to, $12,000 to try to get all this stuff copywritten. And it was very daunting. And it was discouraging, but I heard that voice from God say, you're meant to do this. It's going to get done. So when I came up with the idea to actually do a book of just the confirmations and just the quotes, and I said, wait a minute, if I do this book, they're all going to be copywritten. So problem solved. But if I had not stuck with it, and if I got discouraged and I stayed in that, you can't stay in the mess. When you're down there, stay down there for a little bit. You got to get up.
Yeah.
You got to get up. And even to the person who's saying, well, I cannot even muster up enough strength to get up. You can. And you got to remember, it's not you, it's God. God is getting up with you. God is pulling you up. You cannot stay in that spot as much as you want to. And I know one of your favorite quotes is, and that came from a situation in my life, was God will make you stay when you want to run. And there's been so many times where I said, you know what? I'm just running. I don't care. I'm running. And God said, no, you're going to stay right there. You're going to stay there because love doesn't leave. Love is not the thing that leaves. Love stays. And you've got to stay for the love.
Oh my goodness. I love that. There's so many things that you said in that. And, one of the things I want to go back to where you said very early on, I was talking about authenticity. And I think the challenge with authenticity is that a lot of folks truly don't know who they are.
They don't.
Because of social media and, the world telling them want to be this way. So they're this way this day and this way the next day. So they don't truly know who they are. So they can't be their fully authentic self. And I think it's hard enough trying to be your authentic self. Imagine trying to be several people, that's even harder. It's a lot of work. Yeah. And I think you try to be all these people. And if these people evolve and change, then do you evolve and change, or do you stay that old person?
Right.
So
what do you do?
Exactly. So they end up getting confused and they don't put out the same thing consistently. Because I'm always going to be me. I'm always going to be me. There's going to be something motivational. There's something inspirational. I'm a child of God. So that's going to come out, but what's Suzanne? It's Suzanne. So, and if I inspire others, God bless you. Thank you, Jesus. You're doing your work. You're not inspired because of me. You're seeing God in me, and you're becoming inspired, because ultimately, no matter what they do, they will never be another Kimberly. They'll never be another Suzanne. And I think folks get so caught up into that, like they're stealing my ideas. Okay. We all have, God puts these great ideas in all of us. Like you wrote a book, I wrote a book. I know several people who wrote a book. You have a show, I have a show. It's not like, it's not Biden, but we've just got to get over that idea. It's like, okay, let me just keep it to myself. In scripture, they talk about, the one that got all the talent and the one that got the one talent and buried it, he ended up losing it, basically. But if you use your talents, use your talents, it will multiply. Don't bury it. That's the spiritual folks. And for those of you who are not spiritual and don't know the Bible, there's the one to talk about the monkey that had his hand in the cage. I think that's the one. And he had it like this, but he wouldn't, because he didn't want to lose anything, but he couldn't get his hand out. But like once you open your hand, you could pull it out. So I think there's just so many levels to that in terms of, hey, don't try to be somebody else, right? Be consistent, be authentic. And, honestly, I know that what's meant for you will be for you. And, I'm glad you persevered, because God will meet you where you are.
He does.
And there are times, I'm going to be quite honest, when you're like, all right, God, listen, you say you're coming, but I ain't seen you yet. So I'm going to just get up and go. And
to do this myself.
Exactly. I mean, we're strong-willed women. We want to do that sometimes.
We do. The patience.
Yeah.
I've developed such a new level of patience. I've always thought that I was a pretty patient person.
Yeah.
But these things and tests and trials
Yeah.
come, and they really will show you how patient you are or you aren't. And, through this journey and this process, and, I just love all of them. I call them 2020 terms.
Yeah. Okay.
The 2020 market words, navigate, and where everybody's talking about navigating and staying cautiously optimistic and all these words. But at the end of the day, it really is the journey.
Yeah.
It really is the journey and all the steps. And sometimes you don't see it while you're on the journey. But if you look back and you see the path and you see where you could have gone here and you could have gone left and you could have gone right, and you think back to, well, what if I did something else? I think back to, what if I didn't put those quotes out there?
Yeah.
What if I didn't bother with? What if I listened to all of the people? I mean, I couldn't even tell you how many people. Why in the world would you ever do that? Why? That's stupid. One person say to me, like, that will never come to anything. I could have listened to it.
Could have.
And said, yeah, and maybe it is silly. I'll just keep it to myself. I'll just keep it in my notes.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, you have this treasure, and you have all these treasures and all these wonderful things. But again, you're keeping them to yourself.
Yeah.
Why are we not extending? And like you said, there's so much to go around.
Yeah.
There's so much to go around. I wouldn't say, well, I'm not going to go into a certain career because there's already other nurses. There's already other doctors. So why would I do it?
Yeah.
Need more.
We do.
Need more.
We do.
And there's nothing wrong. And I love the bonds of sisterhood and, supporting, one of my another quote is, it's not in a book yet, but it will be copywritten. I talk about, I'm really into support.
Yeah.
I'm really into supporting people and being there for them. And a lot of times people do not need your superiority in a situation. They're just looking for your support.
Absolutely.
They are looking for your support. So, I challenge people to just take a step back. If somebody comes to you with an issue or a problem or a situation, and don't always let the first thing out of your mouth be some type of advice. Just to try it. Don't let it be advice all the time right away. You can slip it in after a while. Sometimes people just want you to listen to them.
They do.
And I've learned that, especially this year, there's been some tests and trials. 2022 was like another 2020 as far as I'm concerned.
I've heard.
With so many things that have come at me and just, it's like, oh, you're throwing this at me now? Okay, let's see how we can handle this and overcome. But at the same time, I look at it and I say, a lot of times people just want your support.
They do.
They're not looking for that superior voice. And, and same thing with, tough love. Tough love doesn't work for everybody.
Nope.
Sometimes they're just looking for you to love them through the tough time that they're having, not necessarily give them that tough love and, you'll get up, get over it. Everybody doesn't need to hear that. It doesn't work for everybody. And there's no cookie cutter answer to everything for everybody that you can just, spout off something and say, oh, here you go. That's going to help you out.
Yeah,
and walk away.
You're right. There's no cookie cutter answer. Like, you're absolutely correct. I think folks don't actively listen. And I found that out. There are times when, someone will come to me and, I'll sit there and they'll listen and they'll look at me and I'm like, go on, because like they're not used to someone else just like spouting out advice immediately. Because you know what, sometimes you have to get the full picture. Like, because if you listen long enough, you'll get the full story. But when they start off, they do give you the version.
Yeah.
And then so I have kids and they used to watch Madagascar. Sarah Jessica, oh my goodness, I think she would watch it 3-4 times a day. And then there was, I don't know if it's one when they went to Africa and they were talking about something that happened and the guy just said, okay, and then and then, so they just had to get something. And I think a lot of times when you're listening to folks, you just sit there and then go on,
Right, go on.
or just
Go
touch
on,
them
continue,
gently.
yep.
Yeah, you know, and then you'll get the full story. But like sometimes you go off half-cocked and give advice, and it's not even like it doesn't even touch the problem because you don't know the full problem. So you're right. We have to do better at listening. I will say though, I'll give this advice. If you want to know if you're patient, go wait in line at Walmart like on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. That really showed. That really showed. Oh man.
Girl.
That is definitely something that will try your patience.
And if you make it through without getting upset or anything, and you stand there for 2 hours just trying to get one line, you're good. You're good. So I want to talk, because I know that you know, you mentioned so many tests that you've been through. You know, you mentioned 2020, which was a tough year for many, and you mentioned, you know, 2022, and I've heard that, you know, it was a tough year for many. But you know, one of the things you know, because I do follow you on social media, and I know you personally, you shared about, you know, your experience about being laid off. And you're very open with that. So I think this year I've seen so many people being laid off. Like I'm on LinkedIn, and it's just like companies, which I find funny, they're like hiring today and then tomorrow they're laying off. Like, dude,
how do you do that?
That math ain't mathing.
Right.
You know, make it make sense. So like anyway, anyway, it makes no sense. But talk to me about that, because I know a lot of folks that are currently looking. And what was that like for you when you were laid off from a really nice job? And let's talk about your job too, because it's all fancy.
No. If you saw it.
She's an architectural engineer, people. Okay, but go on.
Well, so and I'm very, she's correct. I'm very candid about this story. And that's also during the time that a lot of the quotes came from that period as well. So, you know, it developed in 2012 and I started actually kind of pumping them out. But it was from 2009 until 2011, I was not working. Not work. 26 months. Wow. I did not work. Yes, it was during, you know, there was a big recession. And I had a nice job. I was in the 18th floor of the Prudential building downtown. My office overlooked Copley Square, and it was beautiful. It was wonderful, you know, and I kind of felt like, wow, you know, I think I've really arrived, yeah. You know, and I was telling someone this a couple of weeks ago, you know, people, and this is another social media thing too, is people love to share their triumphs, not necessarily the trials, but it's great to share your triumph. Look what I did. I got this job. Very rarely do you see people on social media saying, I lost a job. You don't hear that.
You touch the nerve, but we'll talk about it after.
But
go on.
See the celebration. I got this job, not I lost this job. I got this job. And so it was a very, very trying but telling portion of my life. And in that, I'm saying I learned so much about myself. I got really low. Yeah. And, you know, this is not the first time I'm talking about this, but I got to really low places, depression. You know, you go through the phases, and people will, a lot of times will undermine being laid off, but it is like a divorce. It's like a death. And I'm not trying to compare things, but it's brutal. It is. It's a brutal, I mean, it's a low down feeling that just, it does something. And it did. It changed my personality. It changed my self-esteem was just really, really low. And again, 26 months. You know, it's okay. Sometimes, you know, and I have been laid off before, but it only been like a month or two or 6 weeks, you know, you can kind of deal with that, you know, because people are like, oh, you'll get another job. You'll get another job. Don't worry about it. Oh yeah, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Not 26 months. No, girl. So when it got to be the year, and then you would get the people, oh, you're still not working? You still don't have a job? Everything was still, you know, and after a while, it was like, I just got tired of answering it. I got tired of answering it. And I just was like, kind of pulled into myself. I became much more reserved, and I'm not a reserved person at all. I became very reserved, but the Lord told me, he said, you've got to look at the fact that I've kept you for 26 months and stop focusing on how much you don't have.
Yeah.
You know, because I went to a place where I said, I don't have anything.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a job. And, you know, people don't realize when you don't have a job, how much is attached
to that job,
your position, or whatever it is that you do, if entrepreneur, whatever it is that you do. If you don't have that, try going 26 months without having that. And not to mention the income. It wasn't even about the income for me, because I was on unemployment. But then towards the end, the last 2 months, unemployment was done. Yeah. So Obama was in office at the time. I had 5 extensions. 5. Wow. And I remember one of the times, I think it was the last extension, I went in and the lady was telling me, she looked right at me and she's like, this is it. You know, and you get that condescending feeling of you're not really looking hard enough. Yeah. Or, oh, you're being picky. You know, I had people tell me, why don't you just go to McDonald's? Why don't you just go to Burger King? And I'm like, I can't even go there. I can't even get a job there because they're going to say I'm overqualified. I don't really want to be here. And I said, so it's not that easy. No. And, you know, one thing I did learn, and I was already kind of that type of person anyway, but I really learned that you've really got to be sensitive. Yeah. People don't realize how insensitive they can be. Yeah. And another one of my quotes is, you know, don't worry about people being insensitive to your situation when God can make sense of your situation. That's the person you want to focus on. That's the one that you need to focus on. The person who can actually make sense of your situation. Don't worry about the insensitivity. You know, that's going to come. But I learned so much to be grateful, not to take things for granted. To this day, so that was, 2009. And I started working at my current job in 2011. So it's been 11 years. To this day, when someone says the word laid off, I still have a pit in my stomach. Yeah. I have a pit. And another thing I talk about candidly too, and I have no problem saying it on social media or anywhere else, was during that time, I had to take 2 really grueling tests. So there was this thing, the test has evolved and changed somewhat, but it was the lead exam. That's what it was called. So that was like an industry thing that, you know, architects and engineers were taking, and it was a credential that would be added to your name. And I remember sitting there and, I mean, talk about the feeling of failure. Just feeling like I failed. Yeah. I failed something. Yeah. But once you're able to get past it and admit it, you know, even now, 13 years later, I can sit here and say it and not feel crazy or dumb or stupid, or, you know, I'm not smart. I failed that test. And it's like, there were so many reasons why I failed that test. It was a huge, it was a very, very, very complicated test. There was no open book. You were expected to know all of these things. I can't remember how many questions there were, but it was like A, B, C, D, E, and E was all the above. F was none of the above. G was A, B, and C. You know, J was C, D, and E. I mean, there were like 7 or 8 choices for each question. And it was crazy. Yeah. And, you know, I just remember feeling like, wow, I failed. And I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I didn't want to tell it because, you know, then people you get the pitiful. Oh, you know, same thing when you told people you didn't have a job. Yeah. I was so tired of the the pitiful. And, you know, and then, you know, it went through, I talk about this as well. And so I went through something in college. So my first year of college at Wentworth, my parents, you know, paid for everything. Then my dad went through a rough patch where he lost his job. And so I worked for 2 years and I took electives. That time, I thought you knew what you wanted to do. You're going to go, you don't know if you wanted to do spot. Yeah. I was running around nursery school saying, I'm going to be an architect. they used to joke with me because they said, little girl, you don't know what that means. You can't even probably say the word. I'm like, I know what it is. I want to draw buildings. And I've always done that. I've always talked about it. And to have somebody attack you, it really was an attack.
Yeah.
But it was like an attack on your character because that was who I was.
Yeah.
And to hear people question,
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Like I'm getting it right now. To have people question who you are.
Yeah.
So if who you are is attached to the anointing that God has on your life, the career, the people that you're involved with, and your family and your support group, somebody is attacking that.
Yeah.
It hurts you to your core.
It does.
Because they're questioning, and then it makes you question, well, maybe I really don't have that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm really not that good.
Yeah.
And maybe I really don't have that down. And maybe I'm really not so close to my family. And maybe I really don't have the support I think I have. And it starts to make you question. But I learned through all of that, just talking with, a lot of my family and my close friends, was that, people will project onto you the stuff that they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a cousin that I'm very close to, and she told me one day, she said, think of all the things that you're going through. She said, most of the people that are, saying these insensitive things to you, she said, I bet you anything they couldn't even think of going through what you're going through. And that's why they're saying it to you.
And there it is.
And that was why. So now I learned to kind of read it. I read it differently. I take it differently now. I don't take it to heart as much because I just say they're probably going through something. And they're probably projecting it onto me. So I don't need to take that.
Yeah.
I don't have to take it. And you had to learn the hard way. That didn't happen overnight.
Not
for me.
at all.
I was a very shy person between the ages of like 12, I'd say, up to like my 30s. I was very extroverted, like I am now, up until like 5th grade. But I think it was just puberty.
Yeah.
Puberty hit, junior high came along, and the teasing and all that. So it changed me. I was molded into something else.
Yeah.
But then I'm so glad to be on this side.
Yeah.
I feel so much freer.
Yeah.
And I'm happier.
Yeah.
Because I'm able again to be my authentic
I love that.
self.
I love that.
I'm able to be my authentic self. I'm able to be that at work. Like I said, I've been there 11 years now. I can't believe it.
Wow.
I really can't. I really can't. And I love what I do.
I know you
love what I do. There's definitely not a ton of Black women that are architectural engineers.
No, they're not.
Working at the airport. So, but I don't like to categorize a lot of things.
Yeah.
I don't like to say, well, I'm a Black woman architectural engineer.
But you are.
I am. But I'd rather say, you know what? I'm Kimberly Oliver, and this is who I am.
Yeah.
And be able to bring that person, so when you get that, yes, I'm an architectural engineer, but you're also going to get some spirituality.
Yeah.
Because that is embedded in me and ingrained in me. So the way that I run things and the way that I manage my style it's very person to person based, and it's very relationship based. That's just the advice that I would give anybody. Any career that you're in, it's all about the relationships. I don't care what the physical job is. I don't care what the paperwork is. But it's about those relationships, those interpersonal relationships that happen. I don't care what level you are. From the boss down to, the first person that, the entry level person who's just coming in.
Absolutely.
But when you learn to treat them all equally, yes, they have their place. And there's a level of respect that's there. But when you think about it, that each one of those people are unique individual, and they are people. They're people with feelings and families and struggles and triumphs. And when you look at it that way and you kind of like take it down to that level, it makes such a difference. And, I would tell anybody, don't burn the bridges.
Yeah.
If you can avoid it, do not burn bridges, because I'm telling you, in industry, all industries are small, and those things come back full circle. Those same people that may have been your boss, they come back, they may end up working for you. And same thing for you.
Absolutely.
People that were working for you, they
End
end
up
up
being
being
your
your
boss.
boss. So you cannot burn the bridges. Can't do it. Cannot do it. That's a big thing. You know, people, a lot of the younger women that I mentor, I tell them that right off. Don't go off and get a big head and leave a company or leave anything and just go off hot-headed. And say, you know, I don't need this. I don't need you because I'm this. You may need them.
You do.
You don't know if you need them.
You
or
never
not.
do. You
So
never know.
leave nicely if you can.
Absolutely. You know, you said so much there. I'm going to go back to, you know, thank you for sharing about your experience. And I asked because I know that you're very vocal about it. And I wanted to encourage those that are currently suffering from unemployment, because there's been so many layoffs that I've seen in every single industry, in big companies and small companies. So, I mean, it's been the year of the entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people became entrepreneur not because they want to, you know, there's a certain desire, but because they had to. Their side hustle had to become their full-time hustle. So, you know, thank you for sharing that. And, you know, when you're laid off, as you said, there is a level of shame, even though you know that it's not a personal decision, like they didn't lay you off because of something that you did, you know, could be something that somebody did a couple of years ago, wasn't financially secure, whatever, the industry, COVID, whatever it is, but there's still that level of shame. There is, you know, I was laid off once, and I mean, it was the vice president of stores who actually came, because I was feeling good because I was a district manager for a particular company. I was traveling the market. I had just gotten back from a very successful visit in the New York area because I had some stores in the New York area. So I was feeling good. I was traveling. I had a car allowance. I was doing good. I had a credit card to pay for my hotels and, you know, for nice meals. And I was traveling in my market. I was looking for a store manager, and, you know, I got a call that he was in town, and he was going to be in town and wanted to see me. And, you know, the funny thing was, it's like normally when these bigwig comes in, like you pick them up. And I'll tell you a story about the time I drove the CEO of the company during a snowstorm. And like, it was like an unexpected snowstorm. I was in this red car and we were driving. We had to drive like all over the country. We had to drive to like Connecticut and New York. And I kid you not, the man fell asleep in the car. Meanwhile, I was bare knuckled, like terrified that, oh my God, I'm going to kill the CEO. I'm going to kill the CEO. Like that was like, what? And he was like, because I trust you. I was like, no, dude, don't fall asleep. Like I was terrified. But anyway, back to the original story. I was feeling good. I was blindsided, and, you know, he said, hey, you know, let's meet. And, we met, and, you know, he told me what happened, and, you know, like they lost a couple of their mall contracts and they were closing all stores immediately. And, you know, he said, you know, so I was like, what does that mean? Like, I still couldn't grasp, like, what does that mean? And he says to me that, you know, my position's gone because I had no stores anymore. And I remember he took me to Starbucks, girl. So I don't know if that's why I don't go to Starbucks anymore.
There are certain places I don't go.
Like,
triggers. There are triggers.
It was. And then he's like, I couldn't call my store managers because, and I had to respect that, you know, there was a severance package tied up with it. And he was like, don't call the store, like, you can't call the store managers. I mean, they tried, they gave me severance, even though I wasn't there long enough to get a severance. So they took care of me, but then I couldn't call my store managers because they didn't want like one to call the other. And then like folks walking out, and, you know, I mean, I work retail, folks would walk out with the whole store if they knew they were coming to get clothes. So, you know, that was brutal. And I know I didn't do anything, but I still felt like, to say like I didn't have a job. I remember like being shell-shocked, like, I'm not working. I don't have a job.
What do I do? What does that
like,
mean? Who am I?
You know, it's like, it's laid off, but I still felt like I was fired, and I wasn't fired, and I get it.
Still feel
like you're like, you're employed, you're not employed. Like that just
still feel like
that's the bottom line. And, you know, also to what you said in terms of, you know, folks are insensitive. They'll come in and ask you, they'll say things like, I remember before I got married, and, you know, they were like, oh, you're not married yet? You're not dating yet?
Yeah.
Or then once you got married, like, you know, no kids. And then I had two, like one kid. Oh, you only one kid? Now it's only two. It's like, when are you gonna have the boy? So I have two girls. When are you gonna have the boy? Or like just anything. Like it's none of your business. And
and it's never enough.
it's, but because no matter what level you get to, they're gonna ask you like, oh, you're only vice president. When are you gonna
I
be
know. Why aren't you president?
It's like so
Why aren't you CEO? Why don't you own the world? Why aren't you the president of the country?
cute. Folks are insensitive. So I think it's best if we sometimes you just don't ask. Let folks share the information with you. Like, because you don't know what they're going through. I remember, unfortunately, I had suffered a miscarriage, and then like folks were like, oh, so when are you gonna get pregnant again? And then they started telling me stories about how many people have had a miscarriage. And I was like,
I don't need to hear that.
It's
not helping me.
It wasn't. And it's just like, so it just you're right. You internalize it because it's like the conversations sometimes you just want to say, shut up. Like, and it's not me, but sometimes that's the point where you're at because they're so insensitive, just asking very like questions that are like very intimate, and like we're not in that space.
Yeah, we're not in that space.
Like, dude, I don't know you like that.
Yeah.
So
we're not in
you
that
have to
space
hold
right
it in. So I'll encourage folks to just be sensitive to what folks are going through. You don't have to know everything, and like learn. If they share it, they share it. If they don't, don't ask the question when they're getting married. Don't ask the question when they're gonna have the baby, when they're gonna buy a home, when they're gonna buy a car, when they're gonna just
stop.
Let people share. Like, let people share with you what they want to share. And I'm glad that you had someone who was able to say something to you that you were able to. And probably 26 months is a long time. You had ups and downs and good days and days you probably stayed in your robe.
Yeah. And the other thing, what was also really piercing to my self-esteem was every single morning.
Yeah.
Around 6 o'clock, every single morning, I was sending out resumes.
Yeah.
And you felt like they were going to the wind.
Girl.
They were just in email heaven somewhere, just going out. You would never hear, and I wouldn't hear a thing.
Nothing.
I would not hear a thing. And,
ghosting.
Ghosting. It was ghosting.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was there was a job that I interviewed 2 times for.
Yeah.
I don't think and it wasn't a job that I really wanted. I don't even remember the name of the company. I really didn't want the job, but I knew, okay, it was getting to the point where I need a job. So I tried to act excited about it. And it got down to the point where actually 2 days before I got this job, they called. All of a sudden they had this big offer. They had the package and this and that. And it was exactly literally the amount that I wanted.
Yeah.
But I didn't want that job.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the other job yet.
Yeah.
And I called them, I remember, on a Monday, and I turned it down.
Wow.
And they grilled me. How can you do this? Why would you ever turn this away? Do you have something else? And I said, honestly, I don't. I said, but I have the faith, and God told me I need to hold out for this, but then the next 48 hours was like, oh, what did I do?
Made a mistake.
What did I do? And, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like I'm going to be so embarrassed because if I don't get this other one and it gets out that I turned this one down, I'm going to look like a fool, but God kept telling me, he's like, I would never let you look like a fool.
Yeah.
Like, that's not me. You're not going to look like a fool. 48 hours later on the Wednesday, I got the call for my current job.
Oh, I love that.
No,
I love
and that was a tale. Like, I didn't even remember at the time. I applied in May of 2011. I had an interview in July. I was the first of 10 people. So I said, when I left the interview, I said, they're gonna, that's it. They're not gonna remember me.
Yeah.
But here I am.
What's meant for you is for you, girl. What is meant for you is for you. But I love that. I love that. You're right. Because sometimes we take something that, we know it's not meant for us, but we get desperate. And it's hard to hold out sometimes. I'm not going to lie to you. And, I know folks are saying, like, why don't you just go to McDonald's? And let me tell you something. Black women are one of the most educated demographics. Okay. And we're constantly learning and growing and all of that. But the more educated you are, I found, the harder it is sometimes to get a role, because once you've achieved a certain level, and folks are going to say, trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Because she's an architectural engineer. I guarantee you, she shows up at McDonald's and asking for a cashier, they're not going to hire you. There's like, they're going to be like, why is she, like, she's going to come and try and take her job. And a lot of times folks are insecure and they're terrified of losing their job. So they're not going to hire somebody with a master's degree to work a cash register because they're like, why is she coming here? Or she's not going to listen. She's going to be hard to manage and things like that. So people don't realize, like, yeah, you walk in there with like, oh, I have 10 years of experience in this and master. I'm like, girl, they're not even looking at you. They're not because, and to an extent, how can you blame them? Because you're going to know, and I've been a hiring manager for years. Like if you walk in and I'm looking for a cashier, unless you come into me and say, it's like, I'm looking for a part-time job in the evening to my additional job, I'm going to question you because I know that you won't stay.
Right.
Like you won't stay. And as much as people think retail, like, the turnover rate is high, we do want people to stay. We do want people to stay because it's like we spend more, recruiting and hiring and onboarding and training for them to leave. So folks think about that. And that's what folks don't realize. Okay, I'm going to invest all this. I'm going to hire her. I'm going to train her. And then she's going to get 2 months later or a week later, she's going to get a job and be out.
Right.
So it's not that easy when you are very proficient in a field, when you are a professional, to just walk into McDonald's and get that job. No, it's not. And folks is like, oh, just get it. I went through that. Like folks are like, oh, just take, and I'm not going to lie. I was a district manager for several multi-million dollar corporations. It would have been hard for me to walk into a store and become a cashier. Right. And I couldn't. And first of all, they weren't going to hire me. Like, there's a lot of these folks I'd already hired, so because they knew them in the industry. And I don't think there was one district manager who, if I had applied as a cashier, I mean, I didn't apply as a cashier, would have even said to me, let me hire you as a cashier, because they know that the minute I got something better, I would have left. And, unless I say it's a seasonal job. So, there is something big there too, and something deep that, we just have to be sensitive to other folks and what they're going through and recognize that. So let's talk about, because I know you and I can talk for hours. Like we're both extroverts. That's why I was like, when you said like you were introverted for a minute, I was like, what? Yeah, okay. But I know that, so we've talked about you being an author, and we've talked about, your current role. I know you say you don't like to be, because you're Kimberly, you're the whole package, you are so much more than an architectural engineer, but that is something that I'm very proud of. And I'm proud to say that I have a friend who's an architect, because there's not a lot of Black women in your field. No, so kudos, girl. Listen, I'm a cheer for you. If you're not going to toot your own horn, toot, I'll do it for you. But you're also an artiste. And you do such beautiful renderings of these buildings, and I could see your passion in it and how much you love structure. And so talk to me. I mean, we don't have a lot of time, but just talk to me a little bit about that. Because I know that you were in a store once, like your art was displayed in a store. I think, was it the Cape?
Yes. Well, I never got to do it, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because I think it was right before 2020.
Oh, okay.
Right before 2020. And I talked with them, and they said they would display it. So I still think about it. I've been there a couple of times since, so I am going to do it. I've sold a few things. In the last 4 years. I never really did it for that. It was tough for me that I actually did sell some pieces. But I like to challenge myself in that area. I've always drawn since nursery school. I've always drawn. I told people I want to draw buildings when I grow up. That's what I want to do. And I've always been attracted to skyscrapers. New York. And when I was little, that's why I was so pleased that I was able to have an office in the Prudential, for 2 years. Because when I was a little girl, I used to point to that building and tell my parents, I want to live there. I want to live there. And they're like, what are you talking about? I want to live there. And I'm always downtown. I'm always in Copley. I still go there. I was there Sunday. I was there on Christmas Day, actually. But I've always had a fascination with structure. So, when I was young, it was my blocks. Don't touch my blocks. I would stay in my bedroom for hours, like a 7-year-old. Imagine a 7-year-old in her room for hours, like this, the triangle, the trapezoid, this.
My.
And I would leave it there. And I would be like, okay, that's the house that I did, and it's like I would walk around my bedroom, and you had to walk around it.
Thank God you were an only child, girl.
And the funny thing though was the neighborhood kids all came to my house.
Oh my.
Every day after school, they were all at my house. But I love that. And then my Etch a Sketch, same thing.
Yeah.
I would leave it for weeks. You know, I remember I did, and you know, that was back before you were taking pictures of everything. It was no picture. There was no camera on your phone. There was no cell phone. So it's not like I could take a picture and post it on Facebook and go, look at what I did on the
right?
But my mom still talks about it to this day. Like I was just like really talented with that Etch a Sketch.
Wow.
I remember I did a Coke bottle. And if you remember the Etch a Sketch, it was very calculated. Like you could just take it and draw. It was all about the knob. So it's like you did this to go to the right,
patience,
did this to go to the left. You had, you know, the curves and everything. So I watched all of that. And then it was in 8th grade. We went on our 8th grade trip to Washington. And I was it was fun. I was in the shopping group. We had like all these different groups. So we went to the different malls and like checked out the malls. But when we came back, they said, everybody has to do something. We're going to have this like 8th grade Washington trip night that parents come and see. And I said, well, I think I want to actually draw like some of the things that we saw. And I remember I had, you know, back then it was like these little 4x6 that you went to the 1 hour photo, got your pictures back. And I said, I want to actually draw like the domes and the Capitol and, you know, and the Washington Monument. And I was like, okay. And I remember it being displayed in the 8th grade and the parents coming and going, well, who did this? Like, did one of the teachers do this? Did somebody bring this artwork? Like somebody asked my parents or my teacher or something, oh, who did this? Did like you guys pay somebody to have come and do this? And they were like, no, it was one of the students. Wow. And so then I really realized, okay, this is something I have. And then I continued it. I continued it to this day. I'm hoping to be able to do a piece before my vacation runs out on Tuesday. So I've already taken some pictures.
Awesome.
So I have some things I'm going to be doing over the next 4 days. Okay. And it's just, I love it. I don't care about time when it comes to drawing. I don't think about it. Patience. I have all the patience in the world when it comes to drawing in detail. And last year earlier this year, I did some portraits for friends. I did a mother and a daughter. And so it's just fun. I love it. I love capturing people's essence, you know, because it's like that one stroke of the pencil that lets you know it's that person.
Absolutely. I love that, you know, and I know that we have to wrap up, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell folks how they can connect with you, how they can reach you and just find out everything. But I want to end with, you know, something that I'm passionate about, and it's your passion and your purpose, like when they're connected. And I think that everything that you do is so connected. You know, your faith is the core of it all. And, you know, you're an architect, but even when you create your quotes, you're creating something. So you have that creative in you with your art, you know, you're drawing buildings. Yeah, you do you know, portraits of, you know, real life subjects, but like buildings, you do a lot of artworks of buildings and things like that. So everything that you do is connected. So it's still authentically you. It's still encouraging others. It's still supporting others. It's, you know, it's sisterhood. It's being positive. It's showing who God is through the things that you do, you know, even your quotes, because, you know, we can't hide from God. And I truly believe that. Like, no matter, it's like, all right, God, I'm gonna put you down for a minute. I'm gonna do this, but
you can't do that.
You can't do that. So I love that, that where things are for you right now. I'm so humbled and honored that I get to be a part of your journey, and, you know, to see where you are, where you came from, where you are, and where you're going. And I'm so proud of you for everything that you're doing. You're an inspiration to little Black girls who are not typically in the space that you're currently in. So I love when you share your post about the things that you're doing, you know, so that they know that, you know, it's kind of like, you know, tech is big right now.
Yeah.
But, you know, everybody's in tech, but it wasn't always.
No.
But, you know, little Black girls are seeing themselves there. And, you know, what you do, you know, little Black girls are seeing themselves there. Like, that's a career path, you know, for them. And I think, you know, that's great. And, you know, for you to be doing it authentically and passionately and with your faith as your core, because sometimes folks feel that, you know, if you are a child of God, like, you can't like be happy. And that's what I say to people, like, God wants us to have this abundant life. Like, you're not supposed to be all dried up and miserable. Like, you know, it's like, I get it. I think we should be
Oh,
we should be appreciative and full of gratitude, but we
yes,
should also
but
have joy, and because it's God, and it's just like
why would people want that if
ex-
you're projecting this
exactly
miserable,
existence.
horrible, I'm gonna quote it.
Yeah.
Uh, one of my favorite all-time favorite preachers and pastors is Reverend Dr. Jackie McCullough. So if she hears this,
Yes. Okay.
she preached a sermon at one of our conventions back in 2005.
Yeah.
And in that sermon, she said, saints feel that the more depressed they look, the more saved they are.
Hallelujah, Jesus.
And she said, you look depressed, you walk depressed, you wear depressed clothes, and you think that you're portraying the most saved person.
Why would I want that?
And then you expect people to want to be like that
Exactly.
and want what you have. I wouldn't want that. No, Christ is love. Gospel is good news.
Yes.
Not bad news.
Joy.
It's good news.
It's joy. Girl.
It's joy.
Girl.
Joy in the Holy Ghost.
Girl.
I mean, come on.
Listen, we can talk about that all night. Like, let's not preach, because we could probably preach. But it's funny because I did, and I promise it's the last thing. I did a sermon a couple years ago, or it was a workshop or whatever it was, and I was one of the speakers, and I went online to find the picture of like a spiritual, like a spiritual person, and it was this person like just dried up with the hair in a bun, gray hair. They looked so unhappy. And then I asked for a picture of like a happy woman, and oh, she was glorious. The hair was flowing, full in abundant. I was like, what? Like, so like, and I did, and I was just showing the contrast of like, you search for religious. Right. And you see this unhappy person, and then happy. So anyway, people, like, you can be happy and saved and still, like, just live your best life, and positive and inspiring and encouraging and just pushing people to be their best. But I was so excited tonight to have this guest with me, and I'm just gonna have her sign off by saying how you can connect with her, and then we'll just end the show. Not enough time.
No problem. Thank you again for this wonderful experience. I love being able to be in a space where I'm not being judged, where I can just be myself. Nobody's checking to see whether I said anything correctly or incorrectly, and I can just free flow.
Yeah.
So I love that. You can feel free to connect with me on social media. I am public on Facebook at Kimberly J. Oliver. So if you look that up, I should come up. On Instagram, I am Kimberly_J_Oliver. You can find me there. I can't remember my Twitter right now. I'm also every first Sunday of the month from 4 to 5 p.m. I have the Kim Empowerment radio show, and I am on it's called Boston Praise Radio TV. So from 4 to 5, you can look me up there. It is WPBG. And that is 102.9 FM. All right. Find me there first Sundays between 4 and 5.
All right, girl, don't worry about the Twitter. Twitter is dying. But anyway.
I know, right? I don't even know.
All right, let me not go political, because apparently, but anyway, listen, it was a pleasure speaking with Kimberly tonight. I really do love to highlight just phenomenal people that I know in my life, both phenomenal people that are in the community. And, it gives me an opportunity to learn so much about them and what they're doing and what inspires them and what motivates them. And, hoping that the audience are inspired, motivated, and empowered to pursue their dreams, based on the experiences that my guests share. Just go out there and live your best life, your best authentic life. And it is the last show of 2022. Yay! So until next year, bye. Bye.